Hi again, it's Mayhem. This is the second installment in my series on curiosity, so I'll link the first one in case you haven't seen it, but to recap, curiosity is the desire to understand something you don't. And one of the best ways I know how to do that is to start with what I call the smartest dumb question. So here's the question. What does this word mean? It's a deceptively simple phrase that, when explored the right way, opens up new paths to natural learning and paves the way for some seriously genius ideas. So what does this word mean? When should you ask it? Why should you ask it? And how do you find the answers? I gave a pretty in-depth explanation on my first video, How to Learn That You Know Nothing, on why we don't actually understand most of the words we think we do. So while most people only use this phrase the first time they hear a word, if you've never heard it before, if you want to think like a genius, you can use it on basically any word that exists. Just pick a word or concept, ask this question, and you're off to the races once you learn how to use it. Because if you didn't fully understand a word before, what's going to make this time any different? Using two tools, dissection and connection. Phase 1. Dissection. The first phase is breaking a concept down into its simplest parts, into irreducible complexity. This is going to make it useful when we come back to phase 2, connection, and help us put it back together. We're going to start with a word's definition, but we won't just be looking up a definition, we're going to be creating one. Our goal here is to understand what a word means all the way down. So it's not enough to know the dictionary definition, we have to know its constituent parts and be able to explain it in our own words. So what is a definition? The dictionary defines definition as a statement of the exact meaning of a word, especially in a dictionary. Bit biased perhaps? So a statement of the exact meaning of a word. A simple idea, but hard to execute, as you'll know if you've heard of the Diogenes chicken escapade, one of the most notorious incidents in Greek philosophy. Long story short, a bunch of ancient Greek philosophers were trying to come up with a definition for man. Plato proposed the definition be a bipedal featherless animal, to which Diogenes' response was to bring in a plucked chicken and say, "Behold, a man!" So what makes a good definition? Or a bad one? Let's start with my favorite source for good definitions. And no, it isn't the dictionary. It's this online etymology dictionary, aptly named Etymonline, where you can also find fine intellectual debates about such nuanced topics as, is a sandwich a taco? Etymology is the history of words. As we can see, definition is descended from the Latin definicon, setting of boundaries, determining and stating the limits and distinctive nature of a thing. So definitions are boundaries that separate a concept from everything else. A good definition should help you determine what that thing is and whether something you encounter is that thing or not. A great definition would be able to explain an apple to someone who'd never experienced an apple before, and would be able to explain why a pear is not an apple. A bad definition can be bad because it is too strict, too vague, or too self-referential, creating something called a circular definition. A circular definition is a definition that is circular. Or rather, that's a clever example of one. If an explanation describes what a word is, using that word, it's not actually explaining anything. It is instead, as Terence McKenna would say, avoiding looking at how weird it is. Okay, now that we know what makes a good definition, let's try defining one of the concepts Terence McKenna referenced, probability. Let's begin with the dictionary definition. The extent to which something is probable, the likelihood of something happening or being the case. When you get to a definition, sometimes you have to find the word's simplest form in order to get a clear answer. As is the case here, we have to redirect to the definition of probable, otherwise we're basically dealing with a circular definition. And once we're there, we want to define the constituent elements. They're defining probable with likely, so let's define likely. Probable. This is just a circular definition with extra steps.
and think about what you've done.
Okay, now that we've cut ties with the OED, let's ask our good friend Edam Online. See, here's a good explanation. From 1718, frequency with which a proposition similar to the one in question is found true in the course of experience. Very Shakespearean. And a deeper dive into its parent word probable reveals its origins in the Latin, meaning provable, and probability is the frequency that a guess can be proven to be true. So, with these clues, my best stab at it is that we can define probability as the ratio that something will happen versus won't happen. The number of futures where it does happen divided by the total number of futures where it does and doesn't happen equals the percentage that is probable. Which raises plenty of other questions. Can we know that something will or won't happen? Can we actually measure these ratios, such as a coin flip even? Or are we just guessing? What's the difference between knowing and guessing? Can we only know things that have already happened, or can we even know that? Can we know anything? What is knowledge? Questions like these are the essence of curiosity, and they arise from looking into something. The more questions you ask, the more questions you'll have. When you look, the path unfolds. Like the law of conservation of momentum, an object in motion tends to stay in motion. The same is true of your awareness. When you direct your attention into something, it will continue deeper and deeper until a distraction intervenes. Momentum, vacuums, it seems like some laws of physics track directly onto consciousness. Why would that be? You're gonna have to subscribe to find out. So, curiosity multiplies by itself. Questions create more questions as long as you're not accepting answers with faulty logic. All these important questions probably wouldn't arise if you just accepted a circular definition. The Oxford English Dictionary is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. So which will you choose? The blue pill or the red? If you are paying attention, you have just learned the art of semantic dissection, phase 1 of how to understand the things you don't. But, of course, the first step is admitting you don't understand most things. So, if you need help with that, check out my video, How to Learn That You Know Nothing. Phase 2, connection, is going to take us out of curiosity and back to creativity, to the land of lateral thinking. So get ready for the imminent return of Crab. But until Crab returns, I must bid thee farewell. This has been Part 3 in Intelligence Explained, How to Get More Smarter. I'm your host, Mayhem's Daughter. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Love, Mayhem.